So a Buddha field, when you become enlightened, you immediately manifest your own Buddha field. Not that you need one, but a Buddha field is where you teach bodhisattvas. So when you're dressed in the silks instead of the monk's robes, you are, that's the form that bodhisattvas see you and receive teaching. So right now, Maitreya is in Tushita heaven teaching bodhisattvas, waiting for his turn to be a super emanation like Shakyamuni Buddha. He'll be the next Buddha of this era. Shakyamuni Buddha is number 4 of 1,000 of this time period.
Why is Maitreya sitting down?
Maitreya is sitting down. He's not always depicted as sitting down. Wow, and now I'm not sure. We all have stories about it, though, you know, like he's ready to get up or because chairs have been invented, none of which is correct. I just totally forgot. We probably can Google it. It might not necessarily be correct, but we can Google it. But he is always, well, he's not always seated. You'll also, there's a depiction of him sitting cross-legged. But, Maitreya always has a stupa on the head. Stupa represents enlightened mind. That's what the Buddha said to do. Is when he passes away to take the relics, and put them in a stupa, because that was something that was done at the time of a Buddha. You built these stupa-shaped things. So, and then you can circumambulate. This stupa back here is filled with holy objects, and so circumambulating it, going around clockwise, gives you, because of the power of the holy objects, it benefits you. It's like from the energy of all the blessings, of all the things that are in it, whether it's prayers, there are a lot of mantras in these things. When statues are filled, they're filled with, as tight as possible, with tightly rolled mantras. And there are several different types. There's some for the head, some for the neck, some for the heart. And then all the empty space is filled with incense, crushed incense. So there's no empty space at all. So everything's completely filled. That's very typical in the Tibetan tradition, is to make everything, you never want to just empty, you never want to just offer air. So that's why the bowls are full. Then that's the tradition. You don't want to make them so full that the person emptying them spills it all over the place. But don't want it to be light. You want it to be full. So, yes.
When we were reading on page 121, it said, like the middle way, King of the Shakyas, Manashuri, and
Shita. On page 121?
129.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
And then the 7 Sugatas. By that time, I was like, I don't know who a lot of these people are.
Yeah. So Shantara Shita is a teacher. So like when you start studying the different texts, you'll hear these names. Trisa Jetson was the king that brought Buddhism to Tibet by requesting Lama Atisha to come. Manjushri is the Buddha of wisdom, or Bodhisattva of wisdom. He's depicted with a sword. I think he's on the other side of Guru Padmasambhava, cutting ignorance. The king of the Shakyas is Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakya is a place or people.
And the 7 Sugatas?
Sugatas is just another, those would be the medicine Buddhas in this case. Sugata is an honorific for an enlightened being.
On page 122, and when we keep repeating this regarding the glory of the 2 accumulations, what are they?
The accumulation of merit and accumulation of wisdom. So, you know how we talk about the 2 wings of the bird to carry you to enlightenment? So, method is the way you accumulate merit. So that's all the bodhisattva deeds. That's generosity, patience. It's how you accumulate merit. Merit has the power to remove our obstacles to wisdom, because that's the other thing you need to accumulate is wisdom. So we need enough wisdom to become omniscient. So to remove all of our ignorance.
So basically accumulation is about the merit.
Gathering, yeah.
Gathering.
Accumulation is like you need to accumulate enough merit, enough virtues, enough positive karmic seeds on your mind stream in order to remove obstacles to generating wisdom. Like in the monasteries, the monks are taught that, and nuns are taught that, and you'll hear different percentages. For like every hour of study, you should do 4 hours of puja and things in order to remove the obstacles to being able to understand the teachings. So they do practice, all morning long, and then they go to class. And the more senior monks, as they're getting their geshe degree, they spend all night in the courtyard. So generally, the disciplinarian doesn't wake them up during pujas in the morning. I mean, they're there, but they're sleeping sitting up. So, which Lama Zopa Rinpoche's attendants are really good at doing, sleeping, sitting up. So it's this, our virtuous actions, body, speech, and mind, are what helps us remove the self-cherishing, the states of mind that block wisdom. Because we have the capacity to become omniscient. So it's not that our minds have any shortcomings. It has completely the capacity to do that. But because of our negative states of mind, we can't see how. So the more merit we accumulate, it's like opening doors to being able to see. And this is not linear. This is why you can be kind of going along and having this really typical American life and then become a nun. It's just like your karma just changes. It's like, oh, I must have had some really strong, powerful, good thoughts lately. So, it's just weird. But it's just, it's this process of like removing, how we talk about the sky is like the mind and our thoughts are like clouds, and our negative thoughts are like thunderstorms, so, and you can't see anything. When the sky is blocked by clouds, you can't see the sky, and that's like our wisdom. We just can't see it.
So you can have a good karma to be in a place where you can learn Dharma.
Right.
But you don't have the merit to see it or to understand
it. I was in Australia. I was in a nuns community in Australia, and the first year I was there, I never heard a single teaching on emptiness. And every weekend I'd get transcripts of the teachings, and I'd be reading along, and then there'd be some teaching on emptiness, and I'd go, I know I was there, but I didn't hear any of it. I had the merit to read it. But the first year, I literally would just, every weekend, I'd be reading the transcripts. We had a test every Monday, and I would be going, when did that happen? I mean, it's weird. I mean, I understand doubt. It was just so obvious. It was wild. Yeah, so you can have, this is why they talk about aspirational prayers being the bridge from this life to the next. And Reba Rinpoche, who wrote the Bodhicitta book that's in this course, it's not a book, but it's one of the readings for this course. He says it's really, really good to make your aspirational prayers very specific, so that you, like, not only are born near your teacher, but like, say, maybe you speak the same language would be good, or that, like, you don't just have proximity to your teacher, but you have the merit to actually receive teachings, So, I mean, there are lots of people that live around Dharamsala who never go to a teaching of His Holiness. You know, India has how many billions of people? 7 billion or something? Or is that the whole planet?
That's the whole planet.
But they have a lot.
Yeah.
They're second to China, I think. You know, and so, and they're not, it's not a Buddhist country. And His Holiness the Dalai Lama lives there, you know, it's like, you know, this is karma. You know? It's like I really wanted to go to the University of Virginia because this really gorgeous guy that I was madly in love with my entire high school years went there. Was Jeffrey Hopkins on my mind? He was the professor of religion there. No. So, and these are the, you know, karma is this, you know, so we have to really, we want to be mindful that it's like we don't want to just, this is why we talk so much about setting an intention and dedicating. We don't want to just do generosity and patience and everything and not be thinking, because I want to develop the mind of a Buddha so I can benefit all sentient beings. You want that result, you know? You don't want to just be rich in the next life. You want to be rich in Dharma in the next life, you know? So you don't just do good things just to, you know, because this gives you resources or this, you know, this is why motivation is so important and the intentions we set. We have really good conditions, you know, here in this country for, you know, a lot of people. People in the Middle East, in Kuwait. I remember when Kuwait had, what was it, which war that was. But a lot of refugees came to North Carolina during the war. And that was a very, 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 very wealthy country. Like the citizens didn't have to pay for anything. It's basically they had all that wealth and they kind of split it between all the people who lived there. You know, all the oil wealth. So you can have these great conditions, you know, all the money in the world, you know, and still not have the resources you need to be happy. You know, to really follow a direction that's actually going to benefit your mind so that you can benefit others. So these kind of things are really, so this repetition is, you know, like all of this is about, you know, the prayers of these beings who are represented by the medicine Buddhas, just really wanting to remove people from poverty, from floods, from imprisonment, from negativity, from all these different, you know, illnesses, all the things that you read about in there, famine, you know, so it's this, you know, that just even thinking, you know, wouldn't it be wonderful if I could actually do these things, is virtuous. It's turning your mind in the direction you want to go. Because it's all a mental practice. It's not a, we can't remove the poverty of the world. Why? Not?
Can't control other people's actions.
You can't control other people's karma. Poverty has a cause. So just like we have all our issues, we created the cause for them. And if Buddhists could just take them away, we wouldn't have any of them. What they can do is be of help by showing us the method, by, you know, explaining the teachings, and by, when we create the right conditions, helping us, you know, like helping me walk into a Tibetan Buddhist center, which I was not seeking at all, you know, just checking it out for a meditation group. Yeah, I took refuge 4 days later. Yeah.
But when you talk about that poverty has a cause, you don't mean like one cause, you mean like...
Many causes, but one of which, I mean, if you just want to get down to a basic poverty, is that any individual who is destitute was not generous in past lives. And they created the cause to not have any resources. So it doesn't mean you stay there. You're never stuck, because you may change your behavior in that life and you create the cause for resources. And it's not like, it isn't that those of us who have resources mean we were never miserly. It just means that seed isn't ripening for us in this life. You know, we've all done it all. We've been probably, mass murderers. We've been, we've done every horrible thing you can imagine. We've had karma biting. We've done all sorts of, we've done everything except realize emptiness and, generate bodhicitta.
Karma biting isn't. So it's not. I don't want to say it's not. I guess trying to find the right words here. But you're saying
Careful.
it's possible to have had karma biting and
Yeah,
still
and lose it. Absolutely. It's a state of concentration.
Okay.
So when you think about people who are incredibly disciplined about training for a sport or about whatever, learning musical instruments, that can all be a consequence of developing the discipline of karma biting, being able to tell your mind what to focus on. So.
It's interesting to know about it in that.
Yeah.
Because I've spoken to someone about meditation before, and they're an athlete. And they say, I kind of do that.
Yeah.
And it's a little different, but I could see how
It is like that.
Skillful.
It is like that. We meditate all the time. We meditate on anger. We meditate on jealousy. We meditate on craving. We meditate on all kinds of things. We just want to start to learn to direct our mind to meditating on those things that are useful for us, for our happiness. That makes sense? So, I noticed I can't explain the whole puja to you. I remember when Geshe Gelik first came to the Kanapa Center in Raleigh, people were asking, well, what does blue mean? And he'd go, Tibetans don't ask these questions. If you're not a Tonka painter, you just don't ask. So, we asked a lot of questions where you go, I don't know. But Yanzi Rinpoche said it means enlightenment. Of course, all the Buddhas are enlightened, whether they're green, yellow, or whatever. So what did I see? Okay. So Dharma protector guardians, things like that. The Buddha made deals with spirits that are, also inhabit places and things that, that if you'll quit killing people or something or harming them, then, we'll provide your food, that kind of thing. So they protect places. And places where a lot of meditators, like, have done lots of practice, this becomes blessed with that energy. So like when you go to Bodh Gaya, people talk all the time about how it's this incredible touristy place, and then you enter the fence to go in to circumambulate the stupa, the Buddhist stupa, and it's like a different place. The energy just feels completely different. So it's just interesting. But not everybody's in tune to that. Some people are very sensitive to that, to those kinds of energies, and others aren't. But that's just karma, right, me, or not? And then, of course, these practices just help us get, like familiar with how to think, how Buddhists think. It's not that Buddhists really, they don't think like we think, but just this all this noticing of all the sufferings and wanting to do something about it. So anyway, but yeah, so some of the names are teachers, others will be names of Buddhas that you just haven't heard of. Sugatas, Bhagamans, all of those are honorifics. They have different meanings in Sanskrit, but they're basically, Tathagata, Bhagavan, Arhats are liberated beings. all Buddhas are arhats because they are liberated, but they're also enlightened. Not all arhats are enlightened. Some are just at the stage of liberation. Mara's forces. Maras are the the negative. Like they say that when the Buddha meditated under the Bodhi tree, and this is the Theravada spin, is that, the Shakyamuni became enlightened in this life, the life he led. And so when he sat under the Bodhi tree, Maras sent him all these visions to try to pull him away from his meditation. Beautiful women, think the kinds of things that make you want to have to protect yourself. All, just so it was all this kind of thing. And so they describe it as they shot all these arrows at the Buddha and they turned into flowers before it got to him, due to the power of his mind. Because when you become enlightened, once you're liberated, you do not create the cause anymore for suffering. You cannot suffer anymore. There's no foundation for it. So even if you decide to emanate, here, and, you look like you have all sorts of illnesses or blah, 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 that's called showing the aspect, you actually are not experiencing it. It's because we can't see anything but ordinary beings. So if they want to help us, they have to appear like that. If they appear like this, only the bodhisattvas can see them. We don't have the karma. So super emanation bodies like Shakyamuni Buddha come around every so often when sentient beings create the cause to be able, they can actually display miracles and all that kind of stuff, because it's at a time when that will not be rejected by the minds that are suitable to see a Buddha. That's why so many people got enlightened during that time. Yeah.
Excuse me, so Maras are more a mental stage, or they are physical?
I've heard it described both ways.
Both of them.
Mm-hmm.
As they can bother us when we're trying to meditate as well.
They say that, yes,
under
harmful
that-
spirits or mischievous spirits. My teacher always called them mischievous spirits. But really, it's our minds. If our minds are the condition, to cause us difficulty, then it's possible. Spirit beings are beings who didn't make it to the intermediate state because they were so attached to their last body. So they're kind of trapped for a while in the spirit state. That's literally all I've been taught on that subject. That's it. Sum total of the knowledge. So the way I see it, like I said, when I am so not a ritual person, it's like, and I don't have any of them. I can't sing. I don't have any of them. I can't sound out words. It's just like, but because I'm a nun, I've had to do a lot of rituals. And all of a sudden you discover that they have a power that even if you have absolutely no interest in it, if you do it, your mind starts to move. And I think it's because of the meaning. You can be sitting there and all of a sudden you realize, wow, that's a nice thought. So, and as you become familiar with that, and of course, a community coming together to generate this kind of energy is really a nice thing to do. I'm one of these people who never wants to go anywhere. I never want to go anywhere. So I always have to make myself go. And, I can say 100% of the time, I never want to go to puja. Like, oh, really? Is it puja time again? I always feel better when I leave. I mean, always. It's just like, and so there you go. There's a habit that absolutely is meaningless. I have this mind that goes, I don't want to go. It's a lie. It's totally lying to me. It's totally, it's like a Mara, the saying, oh, you don't want to do that. Me going, yeah, no, you know. So, I mean, this is one of the advantages of me ordaining. For me, it was a really good way to say I can't say no, and just show up anyway. So, anyway. So, I'm just saying this because you may have a real affinity for this path, and yet you meet ritual and you kind of like, I don't know. I just want to encourage you not to be discouraged by that, because it really can change. And I'm still not wild about pujas, because if I had a beautiful voice, I'd probably be pretty wild about it. But, I don't have any of that. And if I could do the Tibetan, a lot of people are really moved by the sound. Like, I'm really moved by the sound of Vietnamese chanting in the Vietnamese tradition. I've got some connection with that. So I can't sing that either, and I can't pronounce a single word correctly. But so that has something to do with it. But I think we just need, just like beautiful music, it's when the meaning, like, I don't know about you, but slowly you're going to start realizing when you say these words, who Shantarashita is. I remember we used to recite the Heart Sutra before we had a teacher at the Kanapa Center. That was one of the things we did at the beginning of our practice. And I mean, they would just, and I'm going, I can't talk that fast. Clearly it's not true. But I couldn't pronounce any of the words, And I thought, never am I going to be able to recite the Heart Sutra this fast. But you do, it's just becoming familiar. You just need to become familiar with it. And everything becomes easier with familiarity. So, So, I didn't enter this path gracefully at all. And Geshe Gelek used to wish I had Velcro so that my robes would look more tidy, And I would, the red is called a Zen, and I was always arriving places and it was stuck in the car door. So nothing graceful about it. So, but it doesn't matter. That's not the point. That's not the point. So anyway, that's my excuse. So anyway, but and really, the mind is that we want to be reminded of the qualities we'd like to develop. So it's not about, please magically transform my mind. It's what magically transforms our mind is our aspiration. When we want it enough, we'll succeed at it. Not in the timely fashion we would like, but that's what creates joyous effort. That's what makes us persevere, is really wanting to be like that. So that's how we, so practice is, that's how we magically transform ourselves, is by creating aspiration and faith. So, and it's not blind faith, it's the faith of conviction from reasoning and from experiencing progress. Anything else come up? Other questions about the practice? Yes.
Why did you ring the bell
A lot.
at certain time? Well, but it
It's a music offering. So you do it when you're obviously when it says music offering. That's the obvious one. I think it's when you're singing praises. So it's like the first line, and these verses where you do 4 things. So you show the, this represents compassion. This is method, and this is wisdom. So you're always thinking about method, and this is how it works. Everything's symbolic. So it's this. So that's why you pick them up together. You don't just. It doesn't work. There's no magic when you just do it like that. So, I think it's the praises. So auspicious, the verses of auspiciousness is like that. So you do that, and then when you make offerings, you do it with the offering prayers, and it's part of the music offering. That's all I know about that. Yes.
Just to have it clear, I understand that we have many other things that have to be together, but just to put in these two things together, the first is aspiration, as you say. Then through the aspiration, we are developing the profound wish to become a Buddha because of all the skill and all the good things that they got, right?
Yeah.
And about our negativities that we have in our mind, coming from car mind, basically,
Habit.
and bad habits, right? So that part will be in charge, not me, not the part. For that part, purification will help us
Yes.
to
Because
Mhm.
with purification, what you're doing is thinking about why you don't want to do this again.
the benefits.
Well, just because you generate regret. When you
Right.
purify, you need to generate sincere regret for having done the action. So whether it's just that, oh, I'm setting myself up for sorrow later, or that action harms
Or
someone
someone
else,
else.
you're generating regret. And then you make the wish, or you actually make the determination, I'm going to
No.
try not to do this again
Anymore.
for whatever's realistic. So, and you're relying on the teachers. So, my path, the teachers in my path have said this is the way to do it. I'm turning to them for reliance to help me, transform this aspect of my habits. So those things are what, it's the mind. It's our mental wish to transform our mind that enables us to transform our mind. It won't happen just by luck. We have to want it.
Just by doing it, if you don't have the aspiration.
Right, it doesn't help. Well, just by doing it, if you're not thinking of why you want to do it, if you, say you're, I don't know, you do all say you ordain, and your parents sent you there when you were 7 or something, and then, you discover you have a nice voice, that you play the bell well. So you kind of go to Puja to show off. That's turning practice into poison. It's developing your pride. It's all it's doing is feeding your pride. It will not help you. There's nothing magic in the words, anything. What transforms us is our own decision and follow through on changing our mind. The teachings help us by inspiring us and giving us the reasoning why this makes more sense than what we've been trying to find happiness. So it's a process. So making this out, so most people when they first start saying, "Oh, for the benefit of all sentient beings," they don't mean it at all. They go, "Yeah, sounds good." But they still encourage us to say it, even if we're not quite sure that's possible, because it's what helps us. It's what helps it become possible. It can't be possible as long as we think it's not possible. The thought it's not possible is an obstacle. So the more we become familiar with the thought that, gee, maybe it's possible, and then slowly, you start to notice in other beings, these qualities. And you think, oh, well, maybe, if you apply the effort, do that. What we have a tendency to do is just say, oh, they're special. We don't see it as the result of effort. His Holiness is special in this life because he's been practicing. Lama Zopa Rinpoche never thinks about himself. That's due to practice. Maybe we don't see it in this life. We're seeing the results in this life. And this is what they did. This is part of what their practice was. Because this practice is all about making the wish that suffering sentient beings who are experiencing quite a bit of horrible suffering are freed from that, and that, notice, oh, this is what I wanted to bring up. Notice on page 103, I think. You know, we say the four measurables on Sundays, right? Notice the difference in these, the way this is said. So, 103.
Emphasis on I.
Yeah. So, here we go, all sentient beings. Okay, so all those self and all appearances are dharma dhatu by nature. That means they are the nature of a Buddha mind. The dharma dhatu is the Buddha mind and the emptiness of the Buddha mind. Have not realized it thus. So we're all sentient beings because we haven't figured that part out. Okay? I shall endow with happiness and the causes of happiness. Not may all sentient beings be happy and have happy, what is it? Be happy and have the causes of happiness? Yeah. This is going, due to their ignorance, they don't know their potential. And I shall endow with happiness and the causes. This is saying, I'm going to make it my responsibility to help sentient beings get this. You know, I shall separate from suffering and the causes of suffering. We're still talking about all those sentient beings. I shall make inseparable from happiness without suffering, and I shall set in equanimity the cause of well-being, free from attachment, aversion, and partiality. I mean, this has a much different forcefulness about it. It's saying, you know, this is that engaged bodhicitta. It's no longer aspiring. It's like, I'm taking this on. You know? So, and it's, why is it important? We, you know, like, we don't need to, it's sort of like you don't take bodhisattva vows if you're already a bodhisattva, because you don't need the help. You're already there. You know, the bodhisattva vows are to help you get there, you know, to train you, you know. So it's, vows are all about protection. They protect our mind. They protect our actions. You know, that's what they're about. It's a way to free you from making mistakes by just saying, don't do those things, do these things. It simplifies your life, trust me. So, because it's the mind we have to transform. You know, so that mind that goes, oh, I don't want to do that. Well, too bad. You're a nun, get up and go to puja, you know. I'm not kidding. It's so sad, you know. But putting on robes doesn't change your mind. You know, you have to do the work. So, and this is why you have community. You know, living in a nun's community, it's really easy to go to puja. You know, it's because on the nights you don't want to go, you know, you see them others passing the window and you're going, oh, I guess I'll go. I'll get my, I had a torch, you know, this big, flashlight, you know, because I didn't like walking around in the dark there, you know, so it was kind of embarrassing, you know, because I feel like I am solely responsible for the pollution of the planet with batteries that are gigantic because I used, and they're all using these hand cranked batteries, you know. I'm going, no, it doesn't help at all. So, anyway, that's just ridiculousness. But oh my goodness. But this is that thing. There's like, you know, when you can just let that wave of appreciation for, you know, I don't know how this cause got created for me to meet the Dharma and become a nun. I mean, I just can't begin to imagine. But I am so grateful that some previous caretaker of this mind created the cause for it, because my life is so much better. You know, it's like, you know, it's there's nothing to be proud about. You know, if you're, you know, it's like, oh my goodness, what a gift. And it's the gift of the effort of the previous moments of this mind. You know? It's not, you know, and it's due to the results of teachers. We don't do anything without having been taught. You know, so someone born with perfect pitch created the cause for that. And there's nothing to be proud about it in the sense of, oh, I did, look at me. No, you know, we want to be happy and rejoice in the signs of our positive actions, like having a beautiful voice. You know, that's a sign of patience. It's so clear why I don't have one. It really is very obvious. You know, some of these are, it's like, so you needed a teacher, you know, you needed some harm-doing sentient being to treat you poorly, to develop patience. You have a beautiful voice because someone wasn't kind to you. And you tolerated the suffering that arose in the mind, you know? So that, you know, you had, like your child, you know? The 2-year-old running around going, oh my God, I'm never gonna get the groceries done with him running around and da-da-da-da-da, you know, da-da-da. And you have to be patient because it's a little child who, you know, isn't in control. So this is the way, you know, and then some life you have a really beautiful voice because you don't hit the child. I must still be at the hitting the child stage. Hopefully I'm done, you know, so not having children is a real blessing. So anyway, all right, enough. So thank you very much for showing up to the puja and for staying around afterwards. I know it's late, but it's something to rejoice about. You know, this is a good use of your time. You know, so rejoice about that, and you know, we really want to dedicate it. You know, that whatever positive potential we place in our mind streams, that it, you know, it will ripen for all suffering sentient beings to help them become enlightened. And it won't exhaust until all sentient beings are enlightened. So ha. That's a Buddhist version of amen. It's not true. But everybody always goes, is there something else?
I thought it was the
Don't you say something at the
Tibetan
end?
version
No.
of boom.
Boom. Yeah. Ta-da. So,
Thank you.